this, I have passed this privilege to share the contents to ma'am, you, and
I think I can share now.
yeah, you can share now, ma'am. I think please check.
Are you able to see this?
It is visible, ma'am. Visible.
Yeah, it's coming. Yes, it's coming, ma'am. So can we start, ma'am?
Yeah.
So with your kind permission, let us start our second session of day 2 of this faculty development program. So good afternoon, all the participants. I, Dr. Jitendra Jain, welcome you all in the session, and we are delighted to have Dr. Ritula Thakur ma'am, Associate Professor, NITTTR Chandigarh with us. She is going to take the session on mapping instructional objective with test items. So before starting the session, let us introduce our today's expert to the participants. So Dr. Ritula Thakur received her Bachelor of Engineering degree in Electrical Engineering with honors and Master of Engineering degree in Power System with distinction and PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Currently, she is working as Associate Professor at National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chandigarh. She has also worked as a visiting scholar in Richard Russell Research Laboratory, Athens, USA. Her research interests are in the area of artificial intelligence in power systems, microgrid and smart grid, embedded systems and microcontrollers, electrical engineering and information technology in agriculture, quality analysis and detection technology in food materials, sensors and instrumentation, power systems, power quality, PLC and SCADA. Uh, she has successfully coordinated 2 ARPIT courses on SWAYAM portal in the field of smart grid also. So such a dynamic and very resourceful expert is with us. So now I request ma'am to kindly bless us with your knowledge and kindly start your session. Thank you.
Thank you
Over to
so
you.
much, Dr. Jitendra, for introducing me and also for giving me a chance to be here and interact with all the participants. Thank you. So as Dr. Jan, when he was introducing, you must have come to know that I'm not a core education person. I'm from electrical background, core electrical background. And whatever I will be sharing with you today is because of the outcome of we had NBA for our ME program. So I was a coordinator for NBA in our department. So during that process, whatever I learned, I'm going to share with all of you. So again, a very good afternoon to all of you. Now it is almost good afternoon, I would say. And as I was discussing with Dr. Jitendra Jain that when you're teaching these kind of stuff, so it's really, a kind of challenge for instructor as well as for the participant. Because there is a altogether different flavor when we are interacting. But in my session, I would try my level best that this is not a one-way session that I just keep on explaining the things and you will keep on listening. I would expect from most of you, all of you, that you please take part in this lecture, and that will make the whole thing more productive and more interesting. So as I said that this session is going to be about mapping instructional objectives with test items. But in the morning, I was just discussing with Dr. Jitendra Jain that what have all been the contents you all have covered in this STC by now. So during that discussion, I came to know that you have not learned much about the learning objectives, how to write the course outcomes. And I think in today's scenario, when most of us are going through this NBA accreditation, it's very important that we become familiar with these terms like course outcomes, learning outcomes, because that's a part of our today's session. So let me just tell you what are the learning objectives for today's class. So after attending this session, you will be able to learn Bloom's taxonomy, You will be able to write the learning outcomes and describe the various steps in writing effective exam items, construct the test items that are aligned with the course learning objectives. So when I'm saying learning objectives, it is like there's a very minute difference between learning objective and learning outcomes, and most of the time these terms are used simultaneously. Although objectives, when we say, it is from the student's perspective, that what are the goals for a student to learn, and when we say learning outcomes means what he will learn after the class. But then I will not go into much details of that, but as of now we will be using these two terms simultaneously. Sometimes we'll say learning objectives or we'll say learning outcomes, so please don't get confused in that as of now. Okay, so firstly, let us understand what are learning objectives and or we can say what are learning outcomes. So we can say that the student learning objectives or outcomes are the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and the values that the students will gain from a learning experience. So as I said, what will be the outcome of the learning experience? That is a learning outcome or learning objective. And we can say that these define what the students already know, what they are able to do, and the value by the end of a learning experience. So, first and foremost thing is that our learning outcomes should be SMART. What is the meaning of SMART? One is that they should be very specific. After this slide, I will be showing you a very small a video in which you will get to know that what is the meaning of this specific and all those things. So as of now, the learning outcomes should be SMART, means they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should not be vague, they should be obviously attainable, results oriented, and time bound. Okay, so let us watch a very a video in which you will get to know that what is the meaning of all these terms, and then we will move further. So let me just go to this video. Are you able to hear it? When I played it, were
Yes,
you able?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm able to see the video.
Ma'am, I think video is not coming.
It's not
Video is not there in the your sharing screen. No, ma'am. I think you have to share this tab of
actually
this YouTube.
I was sharing the Microsoft PowerPoint.
You have to, I think, stop this sharing, and yeah. You have to stop this sharing.
I'll have to share again.
Yeah.
It is visible now?
Now it's visible. Yes.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Ma'am, no sound is coming. Sound is not. Is there any sound in this video?
Okay. Yes, there is sound. That's why I was asking whether you are able to hear it. Does anyone know how to bring a sound here?
Ma'am, at the sharing, is there any option of tab is coming? Sharing instead of screen, when you are sharing this link, when you are going for sharing this screen, is there any option of tab is coming? Like in Google Meet, there is a sharing tab also. So when we share this
That's
tab,
sounds.
then the sound is also there.
Let me just search it.
Ma'am, share it again and
Actually, there it is showing different thing, but there is no option for sound. Like in case of Google Meet, we have the option of share sound. Na? In this case, it is like window
ma'am,
file.
sharing tab is there. Sharing tab.
No, there is no option of sharing tab. In fact, when I go to share content, it is like there are different, like my Microsoft PowerPoint or this window. Share your computer audio. I think it should be this. Yes, yes. I think now it will come. Let me know in case it doesn't come. But I think it should work because there is an option of share computer audio.
Maybe now. Yes.
Yes, it will work,
I
ma'am,
think
now.
I should mute myself in that case because otherwise there will be echo also. Okay. Anyways, let us just try. I'll start from here.
And I want you to imagine that getting to the end of your lesson is like
It's coming, ma'am.
really
Now
It's
coming, ma'am.
working,
Yes.
it's working.
Okay. Fine.
We can hear by now.
the other side is the goal. This is what you hope the students will have learnt by the end. This goal is called the aim. In order for the students to reach the goal, they will need stepping stones to get across the river. These stepping stones are called the objectives. So what are aims and objectives? Well, an aim is a broad idea of what you hope to achieve by the end of the lesson. And the objectives are the steps students will take to achieve the aim. One of the most important things about writing objectives is that they must be measurable. We will be looking at this later. So let's have a look at an example. If we're doing a lesson on the human bones, you might set your aim to be to know the bones of the human body. This is not very specific and needs breaking into manageable chunks. Remember, an aim is only a broad outline. So our first objective could be to identify at least 3 different bones. This is much more specific and is the first stepping stone of the lesson. Seeing as how we are writing these specific objectives, you might ask, do we really need an aim? The answer is yes. Without an aim, you have no direction for your objectives. Therefore, you should decide on the aim of your lesson before writing the objectives. So now you might be wondering how important objectives are. Well, objectives are the most important part of lesson planning. They help to keep the lesson on track and also make sure that learning is broken down for the students. Objectives are written on both the scheme of work and the lesson plan. Objectives also help to keep your students happy. Not knowing what to expect from a lesson can make students lose interest. Students can easily switch off if they feel there is no plan to the lesson. Showing the objectives to the students lets them know what they will be learning, and this puts them at ease. It is very important to get your objectives right. The objectives need to be something that you understand and is useful to you. But it also needs to be something that another teacher could understand if they're going to cover your lesson. But don't forget, we're going to be showing these to our students, and if the language is too complicated, they could get very confused. Therefore, they also need to be something that the students can understand, and so you may even need to reword them before putting them on the board for your students. In order to make sure our learning objectives are going to work, we need to do a SMART test on them. You basically need to check that your objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related. So let's look at making a specific objective. If our aim was to learn about trees, we might write an objective which says students will do a test. Do a test is not specific, and another tutor covering your lesson wouldn't know what the test was supposed to be about. It is also something students will do, not what they will be learning. It is important that your objectives deal with learning. So we could change this to students will describe the process involved in photosynthesis. This is much clearer and also shows what you expect the student to learn. It is extremely important that your objectives are measurable. This means that you can actually carry out some form of assessment to check that your objectives have been met. If your aim was to learn about money, you might write the objective students will understand why we have money. But we have no way to test whether a student has understood something. You could ask them, and even though they say they have, they haven't. So we could change this to students will give at least one reason for money. This is measured by default as each student will give a reason and you can check that it is correct. Next, we need to make our objectives achievable. If we were trying to teach students how to write an essay, we could say that students will write a 3,000-word essay. This definitely would help them to learn how to write an essay, but it's like climbing a mountain in one go. Mountain climbers always plan their ascent in stages, so we need to plan the writing of the essay in stages as well. So instead of saying write 3,000 words, we could get the students to write a paragraph of an essay. Now we need to make sure our objectives are relevant. If we are trying to teach students how to fix a car radiator, we might say students will learn how to change brake fluid. Even though this is related to fixing a car, it has nothing to do with the radiator and so is irrelevant. So instead, we could say that students will learn how to safely fill the radiator with water. Finally, we need to make sure our objectives are time-related. We do this by saying, by the end of the session, students will. Most of the exact timings are dealt with in the lesson plan, and you will learn about this later in the course. So let's have a look at the type of words you should and shouldn't be using. Words like understand, know, feel, appreciate, show an awareness of, and students will learn are not good in objectives. This is because they are not measurable. If you take understand, for example, students would need to do something else to show that they have understood. It is that thing that they do that you need to be writing in your objectives. Therefore, you should be using words like define, demonstrate, identify, create, state, and list. Each of these are tangible things that you can get students to do and can be measured. So let's have a look at an example of an aim and objective from a theory lesson. Our aim might be to assess the best exercise for weight loss. When writing the objectives, you might find it helpful to write by the end of the session, all students will. You don't have to repeat it if you write it how it looks here, but this starts every single one of your objectives. Now our first objective is to get students to identify different cardio exercises. Can you see how we are asking some to do more than others? This is called differentiation. You'll be learning about this later in the course. Our next objective is to get them to decide which cardio exercise is better. You can see how we are gradually progressing towards the aim. Now let's look at the aim and objective for a practical lesson. Our aim is to begin a 30-second promotional video. Our first objective is to create a storyboard for the video. Then the students will film at least 2 of the scenes for the video. And finally, they need to import the footage and trim the start and end points. Notice how it doesn't say by the end of the session students will. This is the way to write objectives when you are more confident. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of how to write aims and objectives. Please watch this video as many times as you need and discuss any of the content with your peers.
Okay. So after seeing this video, I hope that now you know what is the meaning when we say that our objectives or our learning outcomes.
Ma'am, there's a request. Can you please send this link in the chat box, please? The YouTube.
Yeah, sure. I'll share it after
Hello?
our session. I'll share it in the chat box. You can
Okay,
watch
thank
it
you,
later.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so after watching this video, I hope that it is clear to you that whenever we say that writing learning outcomes or course outcomes, if it is a program outcomes or test items, because all this will be applicable there also. So what do you mean by they should be smart? When we say smart, it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be attainable, it should be relevant and time bound. So you remember when I started the class, had I not told you in that slide in which I had told you that what are our learning objectives for today's session, had I not told you what I'm going to tell you, you would have been blank. What is ma'am going to tell today? So as the class progresses, then you will have to make an effort to understand, okay, this is what I'm going to learn. So that is why it is very important that whenever you are writing your lesson plan or your course plan or your program outcomes, so these points should be kept in mind, that we need to tell these objectives before that, so that it is clear to the students what he is going to learn from it. Now, I think in yesterday's class, you had a session on what are course outcomes, what are program outcomes. So can any one of you tell me what is the meaning of a course outcome and what is a program outcome and what is a program educational objective, PEO? Can any one of you tell me the difference between these three? POs, COs, and PEOs. I think these three terms, these are most of you must be going for NBA accreditation. So these three terms are very frequently used there. You should know how to write them. So first thing is, I think in yesterday's session it was discussed. So can you tell me what is a course outcome? What is a program outcome? What is a PEO? There is no presentation as of now. I'm just discussing. I will come to the presentation later on. I just want to know from you. Can anyone tell me what is the course outcome? Let's say I think is any of you who is not comfortable with Hindi, because in between I have this habit of switching to Hindi. In case you are not, please interrupt me. So yeah, you are writing, I think, in the chat box. What is the student going to study, and after that what they will get? Okay, course outcome is what are the objectives. Okay, you see, suppose what is program outcome? For example, here in NITRRR we have ME program. Okay, we have ME in electrical engineering with specialization in instrumentation and control. So there will be some program outcomes for this program of ME. So that is more broad, you know, that after the completion of this ME, what will be the attributes or the skills which the student has attained after attending the whole program of ME. So these are program outcomes. Yes, very right, as you have said, Dr. Brinda, that program outcomes are what the student has attained after graduation, in case it's a UG or after post-graduation. That means after completion of that particular degree, what are the objectives which the student has learned. But when we speak about the course outcome, it is about the particular subject. For example, in our ME, there are yes, they are the immediate outcomes achieved, right? So suppose we have in our ME we have 12 subjects, and there is one subject called microcontroller based embedded system. So there will be some objectives out of that particular course or out of that particular subject. So that will be called as course outcome. So this is like that. But what we are going to study in our class is applicable to all, whether you're talking about the program outcome, whether you're talking about the course outcome, or you're talking about PEOs. PEOs are something which, like, suppose you have alumni and after 3-4 years, what are the attributes they still have? So that is why we remain in contact with our alumni even after they pass out. You see, after 2-3 years, what attributes they have attained? So they are PEOs, program educational objectives. But POs are what are immediate outcomes which are achieved after a program, and course outcome is the outcomes or the objectives which the student has obtained after studying a particular subject. So this is like that. Okay, so now what I want from you is all of you are teachers. I think all of you are teachers now. So you must be teaching some subject in this particular semester, or you may be teaching some subject in the next semester. So before we actually go to how to write the course outcomes or the program outcomes, I want you to write on a piece of paper that anything which comes to your mind. Let us just forget what like it should be like this, it should be like that. I want you to write at least two program outcomes of your subject, course outcomes of your subject which you are teaching, learning outcomes. Just write randomly whatever is coming into your mind. For example, you can start it with, after completion of this course, the student will be able to, and then write at least 2 points which you think will be the learning outcomes of your particular subject. And then we will proceed further. So I'll just give you, let's say, 2-3 minutes I give to you, all of you. Please take a piece of paper and pen and write the learning objectives or learning outcomes of the subject which you are teaching. Please do that. Because after my presentation, once I have explained to you everything, like how to write these learning outcomes, it will be a kind of assignment for you that you will have to write all the learning outcomes of your course. So please start with whatever is coming in your mind right now, and then we will see what changes we have to make in that. Okay. Once any of you has done, please write in the chat box, and then we will start. So I hope you are able to see this, which I have shared with you.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
So while you're writing your learning outcomes for your subject, I want you to keep this particular thing in your mind, that what do you expect your student to learn in your course. So keep this in your mind while you're writing your learning outcomes. And don't shy away, please, in whatever you're writing. Okay, this will be wrong, so what will the others think? Forget about all these things. Nobody's going to think anything for you. So just feel free, write anything which is coming to your mind, but keep this point in mind, that what do you expect your student to learn in your course? And in this, keep these two things in while writing. So what should your learner do? I'm keeping this capital, do, as a result of your course. Second point should be, in what level should your learner think as a result of your course? So there are two things, do and level. So I think if you have written by now, so how many of you used these terms, like the student will be able to understand, know, or he should appreciate your lecture, demonstrate knowledge. How many of you use these terms? Understand, know, appreciate, demonstrate knowledge. So if you had watched my video, yes, yes, madam, I'm coming to that level also after this. So if you have watched the video carefully, you would know why we should not use these terms like understand, know, appreciate, demonstrate knowledge. I think in the video also he had explained this thing why you should not use this term. Can any of you tell this thing? Why we should not use these terms? Yes? You can write in the chat box also, or you can just unmute yourself.
These are not measurable.
Yes,
These are not
very
measurable.
right, very right. Because all these terms like understand, know, appreciate, these are all vague terms and they're not measurable. Very important that your learning outcomes should be measurable or they should be observable. Right? Another thing is, so when I'm saying that you, while writing your learning outcomes, you should keep in mind that what should your learner do as a result of your course. That means in your learning outcome statement, this do means there should be a verb. There should be a verb. Okay. So instead of this, these terms like state, use, etc., they should be more used. Now, it can be your question that how should we know that what is to be used and what is not to be used? हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि क्या यूज करना है, कौन सी वर्ब यूज करनी है, कौन सी वर्ब यूज को अवॉइड करना है? For that, Bloom's taxonomy, which we are going to now understand, helps us to enable a teacher to define the learning outcomes. So now let us see what is the Bloom's taxonomy. This is a problem. Every time when I have to share something else, I have to stop sharing. Are you able to see this? No, I think, because I was sharing that.
Whatever you have written, it's visible. Now,
Yeah, in between, I'll be switching between that, my scribe and my PPT. So that's why every time I have to stop sharing and share again, I think, you know. Right. This is where we were before our discussion. We've already seen this.
many
So-
participants have written this CO as you asked in the chat box. Can you discuss that one?
Yeah,
In
sure.
chat box, many have written.
Okay, just to acquire knowledge. Okay. His name is Financial Markets and Services. To analyze and design, create new protocols. I think most of you are already aware of this. So you are writing very good terms. Yes. Design, appreciate conventional knowledge, food. Yes, yes, yes. Immediate outcomes achieved after the program. So you know what? Most of you have written it quite, you have used the good terms because maybe you're already aware about Bloom's taxonomy. But some of you have still used these terms called understand and all. Okay, fine. Yeah, main aim was that now we will see, till now, let us assume that we don't know what is to be written. And now let us see what is to be written, and then you can compare whatever you have written with this, and then you will come to know that, okay, this is to be written. Fine. So let me just, as I was saying, that now we have come to this slide as how to write these learning outcomes or course outcomes. For that, as I said, Bloom's taxonomy, it basically comes to the aid of a teacher in order to know that how to write the learning outcomes. So basically, what is Bloom's taxonomy? It was defined by Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues who were educational psychologists in the year 1956. So what they did is they defined certain levels of the intellectual behaviors which are important in the learning. So what they did is they defined 6 levels in the order, in the increasing order of their complexity or the increasing order of their difficulty. And sometimes we also call them as level orders of the thinking. So as you can see here, and then later on in 1990s and 2001, they were again revised. And the next one, which we are going to see, they are basically the revised ones. So, but initially what they did is they defined our learning in intellectual behavior into 6 levels. So Bloom's taxonomy, what it does is it basically focuses on 3 domains of our cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. Whereas your cognitive domain, it mainly deals with the thinking, and your affective domain, it mainly deals with the attitudes or the feelings. Psychomotor domain deals with the doing. I'll not go into details of this because there is a complete different session which can be held on the different domains of your teaching. But mainly the Bloom's taxonomy, it focuses on the cognitive domain, which mainly deals with the thinking part. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that these are the different levels of your lower order of thinking. So as you are seeing here, it starts with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So it's a kind of pyramid. As you go on, go up, it is more of complexity is involved, but at the same time, it is that your learning outcomes or your we can say the test items also which you write, they should be more of involvement of the upper ones. So the lower 3, that is remembering, understanding, applying, these are known as the lower levels of thinking, whereas analyzing, evaluating, and creating, they are the higher orders of the thinking. But please do not think that these are not important. Remembering, understanding, applying, they are not important. Yes, they are important. But of course, as the level of, if you talk about the increasing difficulty of the level of thinking, of course, creating, evaluating, and analyzing, they are the higher orders of the thinking. Now let us see what are these. Basically, we can say, let me just move it. Yeah, we can say that when we are talking about remembering, it means it relates to, is the student able to recall or remember the information? So that means they would be able to define, duplicate, list, memorize, recall, repeat, reproduce, or state. So you must have seen that most of the time we have been using this term as state the law of thermodynamics, right? Maybe when you're writing your learning outcomes also, or your course outcomes also, or maybe the same is applicable when you're writing your question paper also. So you're writing this statement as state the laws of thermodynamics. So they are basically, they come in this domain, that is remembering. But higher than this is understanding. What does it mean? It means, is the student able to explain the ideas or concepts? So this means they will be able to classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, locate, recognize, report, select, etc. In the coming slides, I will tell you the verbs also. They have also been defined, which you can use. So you can just refer to those verbs, and then accordingly you can write your learning outcomes. So after the understanding comes the applying. It means, can the student use the information in a new way? So that means they will be able to choose, demonstrate, dramatize, employ, illustrate, interpret, operate, sketch, solve, use, or write. So this comes in the applying level of thinking. After applying comes analyzing. So once he is able to apply something, it comes analyzing. So you see in your courses also, it is like after the BTech, when you come to MTech or ME level, it is expected that the analyzing level of the student should be more. They have already understood, they have already remembered in their BTech, they have already applied. But when they are doing their dissertation, when they are doing their thesis, when they are doing their research, they should be analyzed. For example, a very small thing, I will take an example. You have done one experiment. In BTech, a student performs an experiment. What he does is he writes a table, he writes the readings, and then he takes an average, and then he writes that the current measured is, let's say, this much of ohms. So that is, he has done something. This is expected from him. But when you are doing your research, you should be analyzing it. Okay, if I have got this result, why it has come like that? So that is why when we are guiding the student for his master's degree for his dissertation, for his thesis, and when he's writing the results and discussion, it is the discussion part in which the analyzing part is very important. So it's a higher level of thinking. That is why I always tell my master student when he's doing his thesis that you are a master student, you are expected to analyze the things now. It is enough that you have done, okay, this is the result I have got, but now you have to analyze it. Similarly, in the PhD, when you are doing your PhD, then it is like more higher level of thinking. So that is just one example I'm giving you, okay, of when you need to understand what is the meaning of levels of understanding. After analyzing, you should be able to evaluate. What does it mean? It means that is the student able to evaluate the information? Is he able to argue? Is he able to defend, judge, select, support, value, or evaluate? Okay. And finally, the student should be able to create something. So that is why when we say, when a student is defending his thesis, we ask him, okay, what is the novelty in your work? What is the new thing you were able to do? So were you able to create a new product? So in this case, product cannot, not necessarily it has to be something physical. It can be some in the algorithm also. So they should be whatever understanding they did. Firstly, they remembered, they understood, then they applied, then they analyzed, they evaluated, and finally they created something. So that's why I said that it's not that although remembering, understanding, and applying are lower levels of thinking, it's not that they are not important. Of course, from this slide, you will understand this. How does the Bloom help with the course design? Before you can understand, now you see the terms which have been colored here. These are the various levels of thinking, and it is the order also by which you move. So before you can understand a concept, you must remember it. Okay, so that's why remember comes first, then it is understand. To apply a concept, you must first understand. Remember, understand, apply. In order to evaluate a concept, you must have analyzed it. To create an accurate conclusion, you must have completed a thorough evaluation. So this is how the whole level of thinking works. Okay. Now, while we are writing our course outcomes or we are writing our learning outcomes, we should, I would not say altogether avoid, but yes, you should not use much of the terms of the lower level of the thinking while you're writing your learning outcomes or you're writing your course outcomes. In fact, while you're writing your question paper also, because test items, as I said, so in that also the same theory applies. You should be expecting the student to go towards a more higher level of thinking while you're writing your course outcomes. So now, as I said, that Bloom's taxonomy gives you all the terms which you can just directly, refer to these terms and write your course outcomes or your learning outcomes. Just a minute. Excuse me. So that is why when I said that you should minimize the use of these terms like understand or apply when you are, or know, etc., when you are writing your course outcomes, because these come in the lower level of the thinking. Now, example which I had given you doesn't mean that, okay, we can apply these terms when we are in the BTech, or when we should apply the higher level of thinking when we are in the MTech. That was only to give you an idea about the levels of the thinking. But these are applicable to all. Whenever you are writing your course outcomes, you should always try to get more of the high level of the thinking terms or the verbs in your course outcomes or your learning outcomes. Okay, so these terms you can just directly refer from here, and for example, illustrate, or you can use, I think some of you when you had written your course outcomes, you had used these terms like design. This is very good. I mean, you are using higher levels of thinking, so you should avoid using mostly these terms which are of lower levels of thinking. But at the same time, I told you these are not less important. But when we are writing your course outcome, in order to write in effective outcomes, we should be more using the terms which are at higher levels of thinking. Okay. Now I will be giving you, let me just see what's the time. Okay. We still have some time with us. So what I will tell you is that I'll give you two examples of two courses which we are teaching, and from their syllabus we had written some course outcomes and their and the learning outcomes also, the program objectives also. So after these two examples, I will expect you, now you have got an idea about the Bloom's taxonomy and the various levels of the thinking, and also you have got an idea about the terms which should be used. Then I will ask you that whatever subject you are teaching, write all the course outcomes which you can write about it, and then we will some of you can just volunteer and you can just present your course outcomes, and then we will discuss how we can improve it. Okay, so now this is one subject like measurement sciences and techniques, and what I've done is that, you see, there are two things. One is this course outcome and the other is the learning outcomes. So when I'm saying course outcomes means the outcomes which will come out of the whole subject. And when I'm saying learning outcomes, here I mean learning outcomes from this particular chapter. It is always easier for you to write your learning outcomes if you break them, if you write the course outcomes or your learning outcomes topic wise. Topic in the sense, the first chapter, for example, the first chapter is introduction. So what I have done is I have written the course outcomes and the learning outcomes from here. Now you can ask me that what is the difference of this course outcomes and the learning outcomes. As you can see from here also, that from this particular chapter, course outcomes are more broad, whereas learning outcomes are more specific. Okay, so these are nothing but your learning objectives or your learning outcomes. So they are more specific. And from here only, for example, how will this go up? For example, the topics are review of measuring system, measurement system, functional elements of a measuring system, errors and uncertainty, loading effects, generalized impedance and stiffness, static and dynamic performance. You need not go into technical details. Don't try to do that. Just understand that from this particular terms, how we can write the learning outcomes. See, completion of this course will enable the students to understand measurement system. So this is a more journalized term, so that is why I have made the use of this understand term here. Okay, and then classify and analyze various types of errors. So what I've done is I've taken each topic. From that topic, I have written in the course outcomes, I have written the broadly what can be the learning outcome, what can be the course outcomes for the student. So when I'm saying understand measurement system, it's a very vague or a broad term. But when I come to the learning outcomes, from here itself, from this topic itself, you see, there are like 3 learning outcomes from there itself. Define a measurement system, explain the functional diagram of a measuring system using suitable example. Okay, so from there, 2 learning outcomes have come. Now it will depend upon your syllabus, and you are the best judge because the teacher knows his subject well. So he knows that from his subject, from that particular topics, what can be, like you are asking, I think that how will we come to know that in learning outcomes, how are these divided into 2? Because I know that from this review of measurement and measuring systems, I know that in this particular topic, these terms are there. So from there, I have written these terms. You see, that's why I'm saying that when we are writing course outcomes, it is like more of a broad thing, but when we are writing the learning outcomes, they are more specific. Now, as I said that from one course outcome, you can write 2 or 3 learning outcomes. For example, in this errors and uncertainty in measurements, so I could write course outcomes like classify and analyze various types of errors. But being a teacher, I know that in this we have state or name the various errors in a measurement system, statistically analyze the errors in measurement system. Okay, so now here again, as I said, 2 learning outcomes have come. So it's like when you take one topic, there is one heading for that, but in that there are some subheadings also. From there, those subheadings, you can write the learning outcomes in order to, if I can explain it in a more easy way. Similarly, we can it was interpret static and dynamic performance characteristics. So I know it is define generalized impedance and stiffness, identify the state and dynamic performance characteristics of a measurement system. Similarly, from the second topic, it is signal conditioning. So there is only one course outcome. So you see, understand, from this particular topic, there is only one course outcome. However, there are many learning outcomes from this. So ultimately, for that particular subject, you will be having various units, we can say, or I don't know what term do you use. We call it units, unit 1, unit 2 in your syllabus. So from this second unit, signal conditioning, I was able to write only one course outcome, and that was completion of this course will enable the students to demonstrate various types of signal conditioning systems. But while I'm writing the learning outcomes, from where I have taken is, I have taken from the various topics. Define amplification and its significance in signal conditioning. Describe various applications of op-amps such as this. So it's easier for me to write the learning outcomes from the various topics which have been given in your unit. Explain various types of filters such as low pass filter, high pass filters, etc. Explain sample and hold circuit. Understand the concept of analog to digital conversion and this. Design a signal conditioning circuit. Similarly, let's come to the third unit, that is measurement of non-electrical quantities. Again, from this particular chapter, I was able to write only one course outcome, illustrate latest techniques for measurement of non-electrical quantities. And the learning outcomes is from this is compare conventional and recent measurement techniques for measurement, explain various methods for the measurement of displacement, strain, pressure, temperature, flow level, and humidity. Again, as I said, that while you're writing your course outcome, not necessarily everybody will use all the terms. It will depend upon your syllabus. For example, if your syllabus is more of practical oriented, in which the student will be able to design something, he will be able to analyze something. In that case, your level of thinking involved for that particular subject will be more complex. So while you're writing the course outcomes, automatically the terms which you will be using while writing your learning outcomes or course outcomes, they will be pertaining to your higher level of thinking. Whereas suppose a subject is very basic, more of understanding and all, in that case, of course, your terms will be, more of the terms will be pertaining to the lower level of the thinking, but always it is a mix depending upon the complexity of your syllabus. And again, as I said, the teacher is the best judge. The same subject, a teacher can teach it in a different way. You can, if suppose it's a very basic subject also, it depends upon the teacher. If you can, you are able to take the student to understand the topic and bring it to the level of analyzing and the higher level, like creating and all. It all depends upon you. So while you are writing the course outcomes, you are the best judge for that. There is no hard and fast rule that, okay, for this particular subject, I had these course outcomes and learning outcomes. I use more of these terms. For this subject also, I should be using more of that. No. So that is why I said what example I am giving you is just in order to explain to you the procedure for writing. But again, as I said in the beginning of my session, that you are teaching the particular subject. So after understanding all these terms, after understanding all these concepts, please try to write these terms on your own for your course, and then we will discuss how we can take it to the, make them in more effective. Okay, this was about course learning outcomes or the course outcomes. Now, going further to our session for today, that is how to relate these learning outcomes or the course outcomes with the testing formats or the test items. Means when I'm saying the test items, I'm talking about the question paper, because that is also very important, and whatever we have discussed till now applies to that also. And it's very important, what we do is that when we are writing a question paper, most of the times what we do is that we take the book, just tick mark some of the questions which are given in the book and make a question paper. No, writing up, preparing a question paper is very important in the sense that your test items or your question paper should be mapped with your learning outcomes. Because for those of you who are going for MBA accreditation, you must be aware of what I'm telling you. And for those who are not, you should know that this is also one of very important key point whenever we are making our course files, in that, your question papers should be mapped with your course outcomes or your learning outcomes. So in order to do that, now we have understood how to write the learning outcomes. Now let us see that what are the basics of the testing formats, and then we will map both of them. Now, this is very general thing. All of you are aware of that. Type of testing items can be two types. One is a limited choice, in which the students choose from the alternative which you have provided. So they have a limited choice in that, whether it will be true, false, whether it will be multiple choice or it will be matching. So, MCQs, most of the time now when we are doing online classes, sometimes we give them quiz. So in that case, the students have a limited choice in that case. And the second type can be open-ended. That means the students, they formulate their own answers. So for example, fill in the blanks, short answers, essays, problem solving, performance test items. Performance test items means when we're talking about our practicals. So they're more of open-ended. The student has the option to formulate their own answers. Now, so as I said, the verb is very important. When we are writing our course items also, when we are writing our learning outcomes also, in that case, the verb is very important. So it is this verb which will tell us whether the test item should be the limited choice or it should be open-ended. For example, a learning objective is the student will be able to state or name the various errors in the measurement system. In fact, from your learning objectives also, you can frame your questions also. They will help you in that. So what you have to do is, you have to see the verb there. For example, if I'm saying state or name, so for this, it will be most suitable test item will be limited choice. I'm expected him to name some laws of thermodynamics. So they are defined, first law of this, second law of this, third law of this. So they have a limited choice. So either you can give them multiple choice questions, or you can give them fill up the blanks, or you can give them what do you call them, match the following, right? Because they are already there. The student doesn't have any liberty of framing the answer of his own. He doesn't have the liberty of explaining the things. So that's why you have a limited choice. In that case, for these kind of questions, it should be the most suitable test item will be limited choice. And suppose the learning objective which you have written, or the learning outcome which you have written, is the student will be able to identify the static and dynamic performance characteristics. So again, identify is the verb. It will tell you that it is a limited choice. And if it is, the student will explain the functional diagram. Of course, in the case of explain, it will be a complete explanation. So it will be open-ended. Similarly, if your learning objective is the student will describe various applications of op-amp, it will be open-ended. Suppose it is demonstrate signal conditioning circuits using op-amps, again it is open-ended. So your learning objectives, how you will map them with your test items, you will map them with the help of the verbs which are there in your learning objectives. Now, for example, after we have determined which type of test item would be appropriate for a learning objective, whether it will be limited objective or limited test item, or it will be open test item, then you have to decide which type of activity would effectively evaluate the student learning. Because when you're doing this teaching learning process, this is very important, that how you will evaluate the student learning, that you will evaluate using the test question paper. So for example, now when we have identified it is limited choice, then as I told you earlier, it should be fill in the blanks. When it is for student will be able to identify limited choice, it should be match the following. Explain, you can give him an essay, or suppose describe, you can give him short answer. Suppose it is demonstrate, type of activity will be performance. That means your practical. Now, there are certain considerations which you should keep in mind when you are constructing the exams. For example, when it is a true false, your average time should be 30 seconds. Multiple choice should be 1 minute. Short answer should be 2 minutes. Match the following can be 30 seconds per response. Short essay could be 10 to 15 minutes. Visual image can be 30 seconds. So, you know, this is very important that suppose when you're preparing your question paper, it may be, you know, different for you. In our case, for a sessional, when we give them a 1.5 hours for a particular sessional, then it's not that for that 1.5 hours, I'll give them 10 multiple choice question हो गया, ठीक है? Time है 1.5 hours और मैंने उनको 10 multiple choice questions दे दिए. But is it justifiable? No. So that is why when you are preparing your question paper, you should keep in mind, okay, if it's a short essay, 10 to 15 minutes is enough. If it is a match of following, 30 seconds enough. So accordingly, total questions you have to prepare. You can make a mix match, and accordingly, you can change the number of questions. Of course, in your final paper, I think you don't have the liberty of changing them, because you have a fixed fixed format, that, for example, you have to the student has to answer 5 questions out of 8 questions. Each question should be 10 marks accordingly, you know. So you can't give them multiple choice questions and all. But when you are doing your sessionals, in that case, while you're preparing, you should keep this thing also in mind. So, you know, sometimes what happens is that for a particular when the student comes out of the examination hall, examiner, the question paper setter had not kept this in mind, that for this particular question the student will take this much of the time. So student bahar aake bolta mere to paper chhoot gaya, itna lengthy paper tha, है ना? Why did that happen? Paper itna lengthy tha, I could not attempt all the questions, mere to 2 questions chhoot gaye. Or sometimes it may happen after you know, out of 3 hours, 1.5 hour mein, the student has completed the paper, and you know, they are just waiting when will the half time be over and will be able to go out. Why that happens is because the examiner, while he was preparing the paper, he did not see, okay, for this particular question type, how much of the time will be applied. So, bas de diya, one question 4 parts, second question 5 parts. He did not keep this in mind that for particular question, how much time the student will require. So that is why while you're preparing your question paper, these things must be kept in mind. Now, this is one sample question paper of our sessionals of one of the subject, in which let's say these are the various questions. I'll not go into details about these because our main aim is how to map these with the instructional objectives. So what we do is, this is what you also will have to prepare. अगर आप MBA apply कर रहे हो अपने college में, तो आपको भी अपना ऐसा हर उसका question paper के पीछे इस तरह से ये बनाना पड़ेगा. So what it will be like: question number, what are the topics which are covered in the course handout, the levels of difficulty on the scale of 1 to 5, whether it is easy, whether it is difficult, what will be the estimated time required to solve the question by the average student, and what are the COs which are mapped from this question. That is what mapping the instructional objectives with the test items. So it's not like I'll just write anything and so when the team will come, when they'll see your course file and then ask you, okay, show me the sheet wherein you have mapped your question paper with your instructional objectives or your course outcomes, then you should be able to make this kind of table for your question paper. So I should know that for this particular question, the level of difficulty was this, approximate time which the student will require was this. So accordingly, the whole time should be this. So all these things are very important. And this is the CO which is mapped with this particular question. Now, this is another second question, second subject. I'll come to your questions. Just let me just complete this. Now, this is the second subject in which this is the subject, and this was a practical also, and these are the course outcomes. So the initial example wherein I showed you, we had taken unit, and from that we had taken I had shown you how to write the course outcomes, but I think now it is clear to you. So this is these are the course outcomes for this particular subject. That completion of this course will enable student to explain the physics of various power electronic devices and discuss their characteristics, analyze and design AC/DC, DC/DC AC converters, apply power electronic based controllers, develop proficiency in handling MATLAB for simulation analysis and design of power electronic based controllers, develop skill for testing, troubleshooting, and repair the thyristerized control circuits. So now you see one difference. That subject, measurement sciences and techniques, were more of a basic subject in which, not much of analyzing, designing, etc., developing was required. So accordingly, my course outcomes had some words like understand, etc. But this particular subject has got, we expect the student that after studying this subject, he will be able to analyze and design. He will be able to apply these controllers in these applications. He will be able to develop the proficiency in handling. He will be able to develop the skill for testing, troubleshooting. So, that is what I said. It all depends upon the teacher. So when you are writing your course outcomes, first thing you should keep in mind is that what are the contents of my subject? Whether when you are teaching the subject, whether you want to teach the subject, the students only, you want to give them the knowledge or understand, or you want to take them to that level that they will be able to apply it. They will be able to firstly analyze it and then apply it and develop or design something. So it all depends upon you. The teacher is the best judge for his subject. So you can't make a comparison कि आपने पहले तो understand वाली terms लिख रही थी, अब आप analyze लिख रहे हो, अब आप develop लिख रहे हो. ऐसा नहीं है. It all depends upon the complexity of your subject and the teaching skills of the teacher. वही teacher एक simple से subject को भी पहले student को उसको analyze करवा के understand करवा के, he can take him to that level that the same student will be able to apply that somewhere and develop. You see, yesterday, one of my friend had, posted in one of the group that he was able, he just, one of his paper was accepted in IEEE transaction of industrial electronics or something, and his co-author was a BTech student. So you see, if the student had done that work which was accepted in transaction, IEEE transaction, that means that same BTech student was able to understand the concept and, analyze it and accordingly publish a work in IEEE transaction. So it all depends upon you. What are your intentions while you are teaching that subject? So there are no hard and fast rules that for this particular subject. Maybe next time when somebody else takes up that subject, he may teach it in a different way and he can define the course outcomes accordingly. Similarly, these are the learning outcomes. As I said, that these are more of, more broad. More, what do you say? Like suppose it's one topic, from there only you can have more 2-3 learning outcomes. So now before we come to your discussion and all, now what I want from you is, I'll just show you that slide in which Bloom's taxonomy verbs were there. I will just show this to you. Now, let us have 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, you all take up a piece of paper and pen and your syllabus of the subject which you are either teaching in this semester or you intend to teach in the next semester, and please write the course outcomes for your subject. Start it with that after completion of this course, the student will be able to, and then you write at least 4 to 5 course outcomes of your subject. And this slide you can just take help of the various verbs which you can use in writing your course outcomes. Okay. So after 10 minutes, then some of you can volunteer and present whatever you have written. And then all of us can discuss. Not only me, others can also give your inputs, how you can improve it, because that will be, actual learning from this lecture.
Participants, after writing this learning outcomes and course outcomes, you can share your paper in our WhatsApp group also. Then I will communicate that information to our ma'am speaker, or you can also write in chat.
And I would expect some of you to please come up and present it also.
Yes, ma'am. That would be better, ma'am. Yes.
And others, you can just share it in the WhatsApp group as Dr. Chan has said, and also in the chat in case you want. Okay, so can we start now? If some of you have done, can we start now? Okay, so who will,
Kindly share, participants, please.
for that, I'll have to stop sharing just a minute.
Yeah, one entry is there, ma'am, in chat box.
Okay. So Mr. Ritesh has written, and I want others also to, participate in this. I'll just read it out. Appreciate conventional and contemporary trends in food and beverage service industry. Compare various types of menus and assess underpinnings of menu planning and design. Illustrate the 13-course French classical menu with relevant examples. Demonstrate classical and contemporary food and beverage service styles and sequence in supervised environment. Yeah, you've written 4 course outcomes for this. Okay. Yes, you have used words like compare, illustrate, demonstrate. Also, you have included high level of learning and appreciate. Okay. So when you're using this word appreciate, Mr. Ritesh, can you please explain what do you mean by that?
More into evaluate a particular thing, how a particular student is uh, able to appreciate the conventional and contemporary, the new trends as well as the old trends which are there in the food and beverage service industry. So
me just
more into
go to-
evaluation is the part which
So-
we are actually testing on that.
So from this Bloom's taxonomy, can you tell me which level of which level of thinking does your
Evaluate.
first evaluate? But in the word appreciate, that's what I'm saying. You should try to maximize the use of these terms which are there in Bloom's taxonomy. So can we replace the term appreciate with some other term here in evaluate? You're saying that it
Yes,
comes in evaluate. Can we replace your appreciate with that? Because you should avoid the use of the term appreciate when you're writing your course outcome.
or judge, I could be talking about replacing that word to
Or others,
Right.
they can also give your suggestions.
it could be criticized or judged on the student how deep that they are going in order to check about the trends which are being there.
Others also can participate in this. You see, just think about it, because firstly, we need to understand the context in which he has written that particular point. And if we can replace the term appreciate with other term, and not necessarily that all the terms should be from higher level of thinking only. Suppose in that particular course outcome, you expect the student to understand, to identify something. I mean, you know it better. Articulate. Okay. There's one suggestion of articulate. Again, in that case, it is like, are you expecting the student to apply that knowledge? Then you will use the term articulate, because it comes in that level of thinking. Okay. Let us go to the other one now. There are some other suggestions like Apprise also. Just a second. Rest of the terms, I think they are okay. So you can just think of changing this appreciate with Apprise, I think, or articulate is also, I think it is also valid. Okay, so what about some other, anyone else who has come up with course outcomes?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Let me just stop sharing mine.
I think sir has to give permission.
Jan sir, please allow.
Just doing, sir. Doing.
Okay, okay.
Great. Yeah, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This is the course on business statistics.
Ma'am, you are muted. You are muted. Please unmute yourself. Yatula ma'am.
Yeah, so explain and evaluate various measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. Estimate probabilities by applying probability theory. Solve correlation regression problems. Construct hypotheses and test them by applying statistical tools. Apply time series analysis and market prediction rates. Okay, so you have also in the you have written in the bracket the various levels of thinking also.
Yes, ma'am.
This is one good practice, I think, which while writing your course outcomes, you should always, although they will not be there in your final course outcomes when you will be writing them for your course, but of course, you should keep in mind that which level of thinking you are using while writing that. Okay. So in the meanwhile, one of the question was asked that can the terms used in one level used in another level? Yes, it can be used. I'll give you one example for that also. And second question was asked that can we use more than one action verb in one CO statement? So as you can see in the first course outcome of madam, she has written explain and evaluate. So of course you can use more than one action verbs also in one CO statement. Okay. Okay, Ms. Shanu, I'll come to your question. Let us first discuss the course outcomes of Dr. Pritha. So she has used knowledge.
Apply,
Okay.
create, only these three.
Uh,
I thought only these are relevant for the content of the course.
yeah,
for the
that's what I said.
syllabus.
See, that is what I said, that you are the best judge for your course. You know that what are the students, because as I told you in the beginning, that whenever you're writing your learning outcomes, you have to keep in mind what do you expect your students to learn in your course. You have to keep that in mind. So of course it will depend on that. So as let me just see the levels of thinking which you have used. So what you have used the knowledge also, of course.
Apply and then
Applied also, and you have created also. I think this is good.
thank you.
So these are apt, right? Okay, so now your question that you want to know if course outcomes and learning outcomes are the same. You are confused about that. Don't get confused in that. Actually, mainly depends upon university. Like for us, in Punjab University, for our course in Masters Engineering, we have to separately write the course outcomes and the learning outcomes. So in what they expect from us are that learning, as I showed you the example also of our syllabus, that the learning outcomes were more, what do you say? Like from one course outcome, I could get more of the learning outcomes. But broadly, it is the same. It is the same. The course outcome and learning outcomes, they are actually the same. I mean, you see, whatever I have taught you about the various terms, about the various levels of thinking, they are not only restricted to course outcomes or program outcomes only, they are applicable everywhere. So whether you are writing your course outcomes, whether you are writing your test items, whether you are writing your learning outcomes, whether you are writing your program outcomes, they are all applicable there. Am I clear? Or in case it's still not clear, you can just unmute yourself and ask what exactly you want to ask from me. Are you confused from the syllabus which I showed you, and there I had written course outcomes separately and learning outcomes separately? Are you confused from there? Ms.
Yeah,
Chandra?
actually, I am teaching the 12th grade commerce students. So till now, we were writing the learning outcomes that were related to the the chapter, the syllabus that we're teaching in our curriculum. So that was, to my understanding, is the learning outcome. But when it comes to course outcome, I am able to understand that this is related to the overall 12th curriculum when I teach. What do I?
No. That is
Please.
program outcome.
So what will be the course outcome in my case? I just want to clarify on that.
Okay. You see, suppose you are teaching 12th class, as you are saying. So what is the program in your case? It's 12th, high school. Similarly,
Yes, ma'am.
suppose somebody is teaching BTech. So from BTech electrical, what will be the program outcome? Means the name of the program is BTech, the name of the program is 12th class, the name of the program is ME, the name of the program is some MS or something. That is after undergoing the complete 4 years of program, or in your case, after completing the 12th class, that means 1 year of that program, what will be the attributes of the student? That is known as program outcomes. Suppose
yes.
In that 12th class, I think you're teaching physics. So physics.
No, ma'am, I'm taking commerce.
Commerce.
Commerce subjects, yeah.
Any subject, let's say if a teacher is teaching commerce, so that commerce is a course.
Okay.
So that means, so it depends upon, like for us, I am teaching masters in engineering. For me, there is one subject I'm teaching microcontroller based embedded system. So that is a course.
Okay.
Course means subject.
Okay.
And your complete, as you said, 12th class, that is a program. Ki 12th class complete karne ke baad, because he will be studying commerce also, he will be studying.
Okay, including all the subjects, you mean to say
Yes,
that is a program. Okay.
Yes. So
Got
I'll
it,
give you
ma'am.
an example. I think I'll be able to explain you better because I know my subject. So suppose I'm teaching MTech. After doing that MTech in electrical engineering, the student is studying 12 subjects. Now, for each subject, there will be a course outcomes. From this particular subject, microcontroller based embedded system, he will be getting these attributes. So these will be the course outcomes for that particular subject. But after completing the 12 subjects, he will be completing the degree ME. So he will be completing the program. So there will be some separate attributes from the program that will come in POs, that is program outcomes.
Yes, ma'am, I got it very clear. Thank you so much. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any other doubts? Are there any other questions? You can just ask me.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
Madam, we are writing course outcomes by using Bloom's taxonomy level only knowledge domain. Why can't we write in psychomotor domain or affective domain?
You see, as I told you that mostly it is on the cognitive domain only. In the psychomotor domain is when you're writing for your practicals. When you're writing for your practicals, because that will be more of a doing. When you're talking about the various domains, it is like psychomotor domain is for doing, and your affective domain is attitude, and your cognitive domain is thinking. So when you're writing a course outcome for a particular subject, the Bloom's taxonomy, it mainly focuses on the classroom. When we're talking for the subject, it is mainly for cognitive. So you should mainly write it for cognitive. Rest, it depends upon the subject. As I said, suppose it's a practical subject, when the student will be performing some practicals also, there you can use these Bloom's taxonomy terms there also. I can just share. Dr. Jan, can you please give me permission to share?
Yes, ma'am. Doing, ma'am. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Done, ma'am. Done. I think you can share.
Yeah, I'm able to. I'll just show you this example, the second example. Na? So there we had used the same Bloom's taxonomy for psychomotor domain also, means for practicals also. So you see, when you're writing your course outcomes, it is not only that I will be taking up my chapters, units. I will also make one course outcome from the psychomotor domain, that is the laboratory. That is why last I have written, developed skill for testing, troubleshooting, and repair the thyrosterized control circuits. Actually, I'm not going into much technical details of this because all of you are from different backgrounds. So that's why I want you to apply the knowledge which we have gained in today's class to your subject. But yes, coming to your question, psychomotor domain also, we apply the Bloom's taxonomy.
So then where will we apply other domain, madam, affective domain?
You see, that is what I said, that all these three domains, going into details of them is a separate topic, that what are the psychomotor domain, what are the affective domain, what are the cognitive domain. But still, to answer your question, for example, now ethical practices, especially if you're aware of the this new education, national education system. So they're talking about the ethical abilities and all. So that deals with the attitude of a student. So when we are talking about the student will be able to, be a team, work in team or management, when you relate to that, student will be able to manage. So all these attributes relate, all these terms relate to the attributes of a student, and that comes in affective. But when we are talking about the classroom teaching, in that case, as I said, it focuses more on the thinking. It focuses more on the thinking in the cognitive domain. So that is why while we are writing the course outcomes, it should be mainly focusing on the cognitive, that is the thinking. Is it clear?
Madam, it is somewhat clear, madam. When you see the program outcomes containing three, madam: knowledge, skill, and attitude.
Yes.
But we are writing course outcomes for only knowledge. How far it is good?
Exactly. You see, right, you raised a very good question. In fact, this will only answer your previous question. So when you are writing your program outcomes, for example, if I'm saying that after completion of the ME program in electrical engineering, which I'm teaching, the student will be able to, in that case, it will not only be thinking. In that case, the program outcomes will also cover the attributes which he has developed. For example, he has become he has developed ethical practices. He has developed report writing. So for report writing, we are making use of plagiarism and Turnitin and all. So that will, develop. He will, when he is going through this plagiarism check. So that means his ethical attributes are being developed. So that will focus on the affective domain, attributes. While doing the ME program, used to, you know, do some activities which developed his skills of teamwork. So these things are all related to the attributes which come in the affective domain. So that is why I told you in the beginning that when we are talking about a course, therein we mainly focus on the technical things, wherein the thinking of the cognitive domain is involved. So when you are writing the program objectives, POs, in that case, you will also involve the affective domains. But I will not go into much of these details, because in order to understand these things, a separate session on these domains itself is required, so that you will be able to understand that how we can utilize them. That's why in this particular class, I have mainly focused on your cognitive domain. Is it clear? So you see, एक program complete करने के बाद में, एक डिग्री करने के बाद में 4 years में student is not only studying the subject. You try to understand in this way. For example, a student is doing his BTech. In that BTech is a program. So in that he's not only studying the subjects. He is also participating in cultural programs. He's also participating in debates, declamations. He's also participating in extracurricular activities, which are developing his attributes, which are developing his many skills. So in that case, we are saying that program outcomes may, you can include the attributes of your affective domain. But when we are talking about a course outcome, therein we are writing the course outcome from a particular subject. So there we mainly concentrate on the technical things, that okay, after studying this particular subject, the student will be able to perform this, he will be able to analyze this, he will be able to understand the laws of thermodynamics and all. Therein we don't concentrate much on the affective domain. That is why we don't write those affective domain terms in your course outcomes. But your Bloom's taxonomy, it focuses on all three. Is it clear?
It is clear, madam, but my feeling here is this cognitive domain we are giving more importance, I think.
In writing your course outcomes and learning outcomes, you give more focus on thinking when we are talking of classroom teaching.
Then when you go to the PO attainment process, there we have to satisfy all three levels, Bloom's taxonomy.
Right.
But that we are lagging, I think so. We are not giving proper weightage for skill and affective domains.
That is why it is very important that you should know how to write these outcomes. You have to give importance to all the three domains while you're writing the program outcome, because after undergoing a program, we don't expect a student only to be knowledgeable about his subject. At that case, we expect him to develop other attributes also, to develop other skills also, to develop ethical skills also. They are also expected. So that is why this national education, this NEP is now giving focus on all those terms like ethical practices and his multidisciplinary areas, and all these things which are contributing towards attributes, attitude. So that is why, as you said, that in the triangle, the attitude is at the top. If you talk about attitude, skill, and knowledge, attribute is at the top. But I think we should not talk much about this. Others will get confused. This is a separate domain of this cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. So that is a separate thing.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that most of you have submitted your course outcomes in the WhatsApp group, because that will once you will write your course outcomes of your subject, it will then help you that okay, how the Bloom's taxonomy is to be used. And after doing that, take up your question paper, correlate your learning objectives or your course objectives with each question. And in future, whenever you are making your question paper, please try to map your learning outcomes with your test items. I think, Dr. Jan, we have reached the.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So I think
I hope that
there
this
are,
session was useful to the participants, because I know it's
definitely.
very difficult. In between, there was lunch break also, although my lunch break is also gone. But still, I'm really happy that many participants, they were interested in learning. They were responding. I'm really glad.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you very much, ma'am, for this generous and informative session about mapping instructional objectives with the test items. And you explained very well the Bloom's taxonomy levels of thinking and how to write CO and then learning outcomes. And also with the case study, it was explained in a very effective way. So how to write COs. So I hope all the participants enjoyed the session. So we are very much thankful to Dr. Ritula Thakur ma'am, who spared time for this wonderful session. And on behalf of all the participants, Engineering College Bikaner and AICT Atal Academy, it's my privilege to extend a vote of thanks to Dr. Ritula Thakur ma'am for this wonderful session. So welcome ma'am. So let's now conclude this session, and we will reassemble at 2:30 p.m. for the next session. And at that time, we will be having Professor Ranjan Maheshwari sir from Rajasthan Technical University, Kota. He will be discussing on COPO attainment. So thank you, ma'am, once again, and all the participants. And over to Rituraj sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jain, and once again, thank you to Dr. Ritula. Because the session was highly interactive. The main thing and the highlights of the session was candidates or the participants were asking questions, and that makes the thing interesting. Like everybody was into the session from the beginning. So that was the main highlight, the key of the session. A good takeaway from this session. I would like to request every participant to on their camera for a formal snapshot. So if it is possible for participants, we can take a snapshot here. Please on your cameras who are available and listening to me. That will be a good thing.
It's nice to see your faces,
Yes, ma'am. It's also
This is we have taken into
Teacher, all of
consideration.
your teachers, I think you can very well relate to what I'm very difficult to teach an empty black screen.
Sometimes it is like we are just teaching to a wall, but right now we can see that people were there and attentive and make the session very highly interactive.
Very good participants you have. All of them were so attentive.
Just a minute, I'm taking the snapshots.
But just wait for a few minutes also. Let the screen be full of the faces.
Yeah. Many participants, we request everyone. Shanu ma'am is saying we were attentive. Yes, you were attentive. You are asking the queries too. Right. Just wait.
Yeah.
Okay, we are done with the snapshot. Thank you once again, Dr. Ritula.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the participants.